The Dollmakers Curse. In the quaint town of Willow Creek, nestled between rolling hills and ancient forests, lived an eccentric dollmaker named Alistair Gray. Known for his intricate craftsmanship, Alistair created dolls that were eerily lifelike, each one infused with a sense of magic that captivated the townsfolk. But his true gift was also his curse, a talent for crafting dolls that seemed to possess a soul of their own. One rainy afternoon, a stranger arrived in town, seeking refuge from the storm. She introduced herself as Clara, a woman with a sharp gaze and a mysterious air. Clara was drawn to Alistair's shop, her eyes gleaming with a peculiar excitement as she examined his creations. Among them was a doll that stood out, a delicate porcelain figure with hauntingly beautiful features, dressed in a vintage gown with lace trim. Alistair, noticing her fascination, offered to sell it to her. "This doll is special," he said, his voice low. "She's been in my family for generations. It's said she can bring good fortune to her owner." Clara smiled, but her expression was unsettling. "I'll take her," she declared, her tone firm. The price was steep, but she paid without hesitation. As she left, a gust of wind blew through the shop, sending shivers down Alistair's spine. Something felt wrong, but he dismissed it as paranoia. That night, Clara placed the doll on a shelf in her dimly lit apartment. As the clock struck midnight, she heard a soft, melodic whisper. "Play with me." The voice was sweet, yet eerie, wrapping around her like a silken thread. Clara felt an inexplicable urge to obey. With a shuddering breath, she picked up the doll and began to wind the small key in its back. The music that played was haunting, echoing through the silence. But as the melody danced in the air, Clara's joy turned to dread. The doll's eyes seemed to glimmer with a life of their own, watching her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. The next morning, Clara woke to find the doll sitting at the foot of her bed, its porcelain face cracked in a sinister smile. A chill raced through her as she realized the doll had moved on its own. She dismissed her fear, chalking it up to exhaustion. But over the following days, strange occurrences escalated. Clara's belongings began to disappear. Her jewelry, her favorite clothes. The doll would always be in the vicinity, its presence growing more menacing with each passing moment. Whenever she looked into its eyes, she felt a pull, as if it was drawing her deeper into its sinister game. One night, unable to sleep, Clara heard the whisper again, but this time it was louder, more insistent. "Come play with me, forever." It echoed through the darkness, chilling her to the bone. She jumped out of bed, determined to confront the doll. As she stepped into the living room, she was met with a horrifying sight. The walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and the doll sat in the center, surrounded by the belongings it had stolen. It grinned wider, its porcelain face cracking further. "You're mine now," it hissed, voice dripping with malice. Fear gripped Clara, and she ran to the door, but it wouldn't budge. The air thickened around her, and shadows twisted in the corners, converging toward the doll. "Stay with me," it sang, the melody twisted and mocking. In a desperate attempt to escape, Clara lunged for the window, but the glass shattered upon impact, cutting her arms and leaving her vulnerable. She felt a surge of energy drawing her back toward the doll, its malevolent laughter echoing in her ears. "You can't escape me!" Clara gathered her strength and stumbled outside, collapsing on the grass. The moon hung high, casting an eerie glow over the scene. Breathing heavily, she turned back to the doll, which now sat in the window, its eyes glowing like embers. "You can't get rid of me," it whispered, a promise laced with threat. Days turned into weeks, and Clara's life spiraled into chaos. Friends noticed her decline, the way she spoke of the doll with a mix of fear and obsession. They urged her to get rid of it, but every time she tried, it reappeared in her home, as if it were tethered to her very soul. Determined to rid herself of the doll's curse, Clara sought the help of a local historian, an elderly woman named Agnes, who knew the town's dark secrets. When Clara described the doll, Agnes paled, a shadow crossing her face. "It's said to be cursed by the Dollmaker's lost love," she explained. "He infused it with a piece of his heart, and anyone who possesses it will be drawn into its darkness." With newfound resolve, Clara devised a plan. She would confront the doll and destroy it once and for all. That night, armed with a hammer, she returned to her apartment, heart racing as she faced the doll. It sat there, deceptively still, but she could feel its malevolent gaze boring into her. "Tonight, this ends," she declared, trembling with a mix of fear and determination. She raised the hammer, prepared to shatter the cursed creation. But as she swung it down, the room erupted into chaos. The lights flickered violently, and the walls seemed to close in around her. "Stop!" the doll shrieked, its voice echoing with fury. "You will regret this." But Clara was resolute. With a final swing, she smashed the doll's porcelain head, shattering it into countless pieces. The air was thick with an overwhelming darkness, and for a moment Clara felt a rush of freedom. But then the shadows surged around her, twisting and curling, enveloping her in a suffocating grip. She fell to the floor, gasping for breath as the whispers grew louder, filling her mind with terror. "You've broken the bond, but now you belong to us." The last thing she saw was the remnants of the doll, its shattered pieces swirling in the air like a vortex, pulling her into a realm of darkness. As her screams faded, the doll's laughter echoed, a haunting melody that lingered in the air, waiting for its next victim. Weeks later, Alistair Gray, the Dollmaker, returned to Willow Creek. He walked past the old decrepit apartment where Clara once lived, a frown creasing his brow. He felt a strange energy emanating from within, and against his better judgment, he entered. Inside, the air was still, thick with an oppressive weight. The remnants of a struggle were evident. The shattered pieces of the cursed doll lay scattered on the floor. But something felt off. Alistair picked up a fragment, and as he did, a whisper filled the air, soft yet haunting. "Come play with me." And so the cycle continued, the doll's curse unbroken, waiting for its next unwitting owner, its laughter echoing through the ages, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lies within the most innocent of creations.